fanficmedia.com presents Beyond the Wall, a Game of Thrones podcast. With hosts Christiana Ellis, Chooch Schubert, Vivid Muse, and Nuchtchas. Hello, everybody. This is our reaction show, so not a full episode. We're going to promise to go short. It's not going to be any 2 hours or 3 hours or
No.
anything like that. I'm Chooch. I'm joined by Viv.
Hi.
There from the shadows. And Nutty.
Hello, everyone.
And we have Christiana, who is having some technical difficulties. She looked like she may be popping in and out, or hopefully will be rebooting and joining us in a moment. So we just finished the premiere episode, Season 6 Game of Thrones. I was totally wrong. Not only did Bran not open the show, we didn't get to see him at all.
I know. I was so bummed.
Nothing.
That and the thread with Sam and Gilly were the only two that I noticed that they didn't pick up and cover from the last episode of Season 5.
All right, yeah.
I started to think a little bit about, threads, but I didn't go too far down that rabbit hole because I know I would miss too many things.
It's the only way I can keep track of what I wanted to talk about. Oh, Grey Worm and Miss Sunday also were not. I lied. They were also not picked up on this episode. Their thread wasn't picked up again.
Right. We just had Tyrion walking around with Varys.
Right.
Visiting the city.
He does walk like a rich man.
Come on, Christiana. We know that you can do it. Yay, she's here! Right. And then she appeared.
Yeah. I think we're live. Okay, great. Yes, the reboot did the job, I guess.
Awesome.
Yay.
Wonderful.
Welcome to the show. We've said nothing so far really about it.
Technical difficulties have been running our lives lately.
Oh my God. I think that we've been wet-willied enough with the tubes this week. I'm sure Wednesday will be a much smoother episode start. So Christiana, all we basically said was that we noticed the threads that were from the last season ender that were picked up against this one, and that's pretty much as far as we got.
Well, I think that it's kind of been the tradition every season that the first episode of the season is largely all about just reminding everybody where everybody is and catching up with everybody. And we really only had plot advancement in sort of 2, maybe 2.5 of these threads, and I think all the rest of them were really just kind of okay, what's happening now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm not complaining because 2.5 I think is better than usual.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is true.
It was very exciting, and unless we're just dead wrong, wasn't it the first action scene of the season with Brienne?
Yes.
And did anyone else raise their arms in the air and cheer? Yes!
I loved it. I loved it. Everything except for one part of that fight scene, but I was very happy to see Brienne.
Oh my gosh.
What was wrong with the fight scene?
I don't think that she'd have been unhorsed by some random guy.
She's been through a hard couple of days.
She has. That was plutonium.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I guess I kind of thought that she meant to dehorse at some point to fight anyways.
But other than that, it was awesome. And I thought it was great that Pod got to get in on it.
Oh my gosh.
As much as everybody kind of hates Theon, I think he did really well in this scene. From the taking care of Sansa to hugging her to stabbing that guy and saving Pod. I mean,
he was
definitely
wonderful.
a good show.
Yeah. Well, and he was he was hoping to lead the men and the dogs away, even though it didn't work. I mean, he was basically willing to give himself back to Ramsay in order to try to save her.
And he knew. I mean, he gave her that reminder when it was like, get in the water. Oh, it's too cold. I can't. I'll die. Well, I've seen what the dogs can do, and that's worse. And then she's like, oh, yeah, right. And probably the only person worse than Joffrey is Ramsay.
So obviously, this was one of the plot threads that I was mentioning in terms of having significant events take place that advance the story. Because now it's kind of a reminder that Brienne did catch up with Sansa once before, and it was, if I'm not mistaken, when she was with Littlefinger at the inn at the crossroads.
Yes.
And that was the time where she was suspicious, as like, don't you work for the Lannisters?
Yeah. But she did scamper up those stairs in episode 10 of last season to light that candle for Brienne's help, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she didn't know it was Brienne.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. And I just thought in my head, she's wishing she accepted her help before now.
Yeah.
So,
well,
Chooch, what was your
learned? Sorry.
Yeah. What was your big mic drop moment this episode, Chooch? I'm really curious.
For me, my favorite moment was Brienne and Sansa uniting.
Oh my God.
For sure.
That was so beautiful.
I was really surprised with what went down in Dorne.
Yeah.
Thinking that there was going to be these dire consequences for what she did, and then no, they can just kill the prince and everything's cool.
Yeah, she planned it.
Doesn't seem quite right.
Yeah.
But there we go. There we have it.
I was sufficiently surprised that I said "oh snap" out loud when that happened. Now that said, I do kind of want to see what the fallout is, because I tend to agree with Chooch that I feel like all the rest of those guards were just good to go with this plan. Ario Hota was the only guy they had to kill. He also went down pretty fast.
Down like a bitch.
Yeah, so that happened pretty quickly, and so I'm not opposed to the idea of her and the remaining Sand Snakes in charge of Dorne. I think that's an interesting development, but it also did seem like, even in the Night's Watch, they had that whole scene where there were still a bunch of guys who were kind of pissed that they killed Jon.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that seems like what would be more likely in Dorne, that there would be a lot of people saying, what? You can't do that.
It's probably just the way that she probably was able to control who was there down to the person.
Well, I think that must be the case. But I guess I think they're going to play it with this whole idea of, you've been weak, and the people, you don't understand what the people want. I do, and that's how they'll justify that everyone supports her.
I think that this is, and we don't know exactly from the books, but I think that this is truly divergent from the books. I believe this is not something that George told them about, but I could be wrong, because we haven't read that far.
Right.
Well, certainly Ilaria in charge of Dorne, and presumably planning to start a war. That, I can't think of any other.
Isn't she? Isn't she the next in the reign, like in the order of power?
Well,
now that Tristane.
Well, Ilaria has no official position at all. She was the paramour of the younger prince. I don't think she has any actual inheritance rights, except that she is seizing the throne.
Yeah,
she's kind of taking over by coup, I think, unless she decides to give it to Oberyn's daughter.
So can I ask something from the book that I don't think is spoiling anything, because we've already passed that point, but in the books, wasn't it one of his daughters that was kind of really going against him, or was it actually Oberyn's girlfriend like they're doing in the show?
If I'm not mistaken, Tristan was Doran's only kid, and all of the Sand Snakes were Oberyn's kids.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
if I'm not mistaken. And so, yes, though it is one of the sand snakes that was. So Ilaria is kind of taking the reins of that plot line.
Yeah.
In terms of, but at the same time, it's also not 100% clear because I don't remember which of the sand snakes it was that did run off with Marcella, even though it didn't work out. But her plan. So this is almost guaranteed not spoilers because it can't happen this way anymore.
Right.
Her plan was to run off with Marcella back to try to have Marcella be, take over the Iron Throne, I think.
Right.
But yeah. So. Go ahead.
Yeah, wasn't Quentin his son?
Oh, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry, but we haven't seen Quentin in the show at all, so.
Right.
No. So in the books, he has Tristan isn't even his oldest kid.
Right.
Son, and he has Quentin, and he has a daughter, and then there's Tristan, and Quentin is, well, are we to presume he
we
doesn't
might,
exist?
you know what? They might introduce him yet, huh?
So it'll
we might yet meet Quentin.
Yeah, so he has
That'll
a
be
whole
Ian
other
McShane, right?
No, I don't think so. Considering I think Ian McShane is older than Alexander Siddig, probably not. But yeah, it was because in Dorne, it's not through the male child; it's through the oldest child that that inheritance happens. So the idea was that his daughter wanted to raise Marcella up and was going to plan a whole taking over of the throne and putting Marcella on the throne, making Marcella and Tristan king and queen, and he basically stopped her and said, we already have a plan.
Yeah, but
here's the plan.
Right, but I would be really surprised if they introduced Quentin at this point, just because even with how that plot thread turns out in book 5, just like none of that can really happen now because Daenerys is already out of Marine. And
I think the ship has sailed on that one, so I don't think it's a big deal to mention it. But yeah, basically he wants to.
I tend to agree, though, that I think what we're seeing in Dorne is wholly different from where the books go, are going there. And, likewise, all the stuff with Sansa and Brienne seems like it would be really hard to have the books go that same direction because it's not Sansa up there. She's still down in the Eyrie. Or, no, I guess she was leaving Eyrie? But
we're not
case,
exactly sure where she is.
Certainly not up by Winterfell.
Yeah.
Or at least not, running away with Theon and Brienne. That's not happening. But yeah, all sorts of stuff that's, seems like it's not only that we don't know because we're past the books, but some of it seems like unlikely to be the way that the books will go even once they come out.
Yeah. And just because George had planned things to go in a certain way, it could change while he's writing it because that's already happened. We've seen this summer there were outlines for when it was a 3-book series, and things were in a very different direction than where they ended up. So things can change.
So we saw Jon Snow is definitely dead.
Yep, he is a dead
definitely
person.
a body.
And that was crazy. Immediately having Melisandre come around the corner, like,
Yeah.
Don't think he's going to stay in that state very long. Although that last scene with her, wow.
Yeah.
All the magic really is in her necklace.
Well, you saw it was glowing and then it weren't.
It kind of glowed when she took it off.
I was interested in that because I would the way I interpreted the scene, although it's certainly ambiguous, is it's not necessarily that the magic is all in the necklace so much as maybe the spell that kept her looking
The connection
young
to it.
was in the necklace, but that removing the necklace, it's not even so much just removing the spell, it's that she has seemed to lose her faith.
Yeah.
She took it off. Why would she take it off except that she doesn't believe it anymore? Because as she was saying, I saw Jon Snow fighting at Winterfell in the flames, and now he is dead. How can that happen? Not only that, but I also kind of thought Stannis was going to be a bigger deal, and that didn't work out at all. So
Yeah. Well, they still haven't shown him. All we know is that Roose says that he's dead, and they don't know who killed him. I agree that it's probably Stannis. I just don't think they wanted to pay for him to come back this season. But
when I was watching that scene, I thought she was giving, because I knew that she was a crone from the books. It's something that's revealed in Dance with Dragons. She actually reveals it to Jon when she reveals that she did the switcheroo with Rattleshirt and Mance. But so I'd been waiting for that to show up in the show. And when she did it, I was like, oh, she's going to give away her beauty for Jon, and that's going to be the trade-off, because she saw it can happen with Thoros of Myr because he did it. And so she's thinking, oh, maybe I can do it. And then she crawls into bed, and I'm like, oh, my God, is she giving up and going to die? Like, is she just going to let herself die because she lost her faith and thinks, oh, my gosh, I'm not really tapped into the Lord of Light because I can't do those things?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I can't tell. I couldn't decide if I thought that it was her doing some, like, blood magic thing, like sacrificing her life for Jon's, or, like you said, she just gave up and she took off the necklace that would protect her from aging and dying and all that stuff and just laid down and said, hell with it. Couldn't blame her, because she made so many nasty, gnarly things happen.
Well, everything leading up to it, and then definitely punctuating it with just getting into bed, feels like she's giving up. That's not to say that something else isn't going to happen. I think it seems highly likely that something else will happen, but I think that that's what her plan is to give up at this point. That getting into bed, that seems like that's what that means to me.
Mm.
Maybe Davos's faith and belief will be enough to bring her back.
Well, certainly he can point out that, look, okay, maybe your flame thing didn't seem to work out, but I know for a fact that you birthed a shadow baby. That was real. That was an actual thing that happened because I saw it happen. So, maybe just a reminder to her that, she does have some real power, even if she herself doesn't understand how it works sometimes. But I was a little bit surprised, given that she, the show actually had her learn specifically about Thoros bringing Beric back.
Yeah.
I was a little surprised that that didn't seem to even occur to her.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yep.
So let's see.
Something's going to happen. Something's going to happen.
So then we had, I guess really it's just the biggest moments that we wanted to talk about for the reaction show instead of like going scene by scene.
Mm-hmm.
Were there any other scenes that were really big for anybody?
I'm kind of bummed Jaime's all like, you and me, Cersei, together. But it was kind of neat. Like,
you can't blame him, because look at what happened in the time that they were separated.
Yeah, I did really like what Cersei had to say about her own daughter, though.
Oh my God, that just killed. That was so beautiful.
I'm really mad that Myrcella's dead. I gotta tell you, I did not want her to go.
Oh, I just can't even. Because she's right, she was so pure and so good, and Trystane seemed to be the same. Wasn't he? Didn't it look like he was painting one of the eye stones for her?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
he really loved her. He was because they were going to elope. They didn't want to wait to get married, remember?
Yeah.
Like,
The thing that I'm wondering about, even though obviously there's lots of other questions in play, but the thing that I actually found myself thinking about after the episode was over is the two sand snakes that were there on the ship and that just killed Tristan.
Yeah.
Like, what's their plan now?
Well, did they live with them originally?
Yeah, because one
They
of them
must have
was going to
snuck
be on
onto
the
the
council,
boat.
remember?
But I mean, they could have like caught up in another boat.
They were going to King's Landing.
Yeah, okay, so they were on there.
One of them was going to be on the council in Oberyn's place.
I'm surprised that they, after Miss died, that they just let them walk around free. That's shocking to me.
And it's okay to be confused about that, because on the last scene, as we watched the boats go away, and the God, I can't think of her name, Oberyn's chick, Ilaria.
Yeah.
So when she's wiping her lips, there's 3 chicks standing next to her. So it's kind of confusing as to which ones are sand snakes and which ones aren't. There's the one obvious one that was with Braun across the, playing taunting Braun across the cells. But other than that, I honestly don't remember what the other 2 sand snakes looked like specifically, to know if they were just like filler sand snakes, or you know what I mean, like other people that were in line with their cause of getting revenge and all that.
Well, I'll admit that I don't remember the shot of when she was wiping her lips, but from what I recall of the story, at least one of the sand snakes was always going with them to King's Landing, because she was supposed to take over Oberyn's council seat. But given that they have now implicated themselves in the plot, I think the only reason that they weren't locked up is because they would have been able to say, well, we didn't know. Ilaria must have done it. We know that she was pissed about it, but here we are. We're hanging out, and then Tristan might have vouched for them. And so I think that would be why. But at least one of them was always going to go. But at the same time, now I think killing Tristan, they're definitely going to be implicated in the plot. And so, what do they think they're going to be able to accomplish here? Although I suppose what would be one thing that would be interesting is for them to go and start whispering in Mace Tyrell's ear.
Yeah.
Because he's not a happy camper right now either, even though we didn't see him this episode. I mean, with Marjorie and Loris still locked up.
Yeah, but it was good to see Marjorie, though, and get a little figure out location on where she's at in the story and what's going on with her.
Oh, poor Marjorie.
It's a curse to be so beautiful in those days, right? You're either getting raped or locked up.
Boy, it's funny. You say poor Marjorie, and I have this weird conflicted reaction, because not that I want her to be in that situation exactly, but I'm also just thinking it's not like she's really just some falsely accused innocent victim here. Like, she's done her own stuff, and
I
she provoked a lot of this.
Her of.
I guess, since she's been in the cell longer than Cersei, she's been in there since, she's been in there a while, and it's just, I was happy to see her, and I do root for her, because she was savvy the way that we wanted Sansa to be when she was engaged to Joffrey.
I want her to get out.
Yeah. And she's our link to Olenna.
Yeah, I definitely want her to get out. I'm rooting for her. I guess when you say poor Marjorie, it's not so much that I don't feel sorry for her. I do want her to get out and wreck stuff. Not, but the problem is, it's not even if there are lies involved in the specific charges, we know full well that she was an active player here. It's not like she has no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
And she provoked a lot of the rivalry between her and Cersei. Cersei was always going to be jealous, but Marjorie definitely fed that.
She poked the bear.
Yeah. So, and I think there was lots of mutual maneuvering. And so she got caught up in the whole thing. And I guess it's just the sort of thing where, I don't want her in that situation, and I do want her to get out, but I just don't think of her as a victim. And so I don't think poor Marjorie. That's just kind of how my emotional gut check on it.
Mm.
Yep.
She's remained a character she's remained one of my favorite characters as they've grown her on the show.
Mm-hmm.
She's so much richer than the books as far as I got it with it anyways. She was just like she was just the uterus that they were talking about at that moment. And she wasn't really anything beyond that. Any other big things we want to talk about before we have our longer discussion on Wednesday night?
I look forward to Arya's blind fury training.
Right? Oh my god.
And
That was
don't
hard
let me
to
forget
watch.
to talk about the waif on Wednesday. We'll talk a little bit about her.
Yeah.
Oh, is that the girl that I'm now calling Faceless Girl number 1?
Yes, yes.
Okay, cool. The waif, yes.
I have a bunch of things about people in Game of Thrones cast elsewhere, so we'll talk a little bit about
fun.
that on Wednesday.
Awesome. Very cool.
Oh, I was going to play this clip when we were talking on last week. We were watching the Graham Norton show, which is a great chat show, a show on BBC America. So it's obviously on the UK. And we get a truncated version. They get it like every night. We get a once-a-week thing that comes out months later. But he's a hilarious host and has just these great conversations with people. And so they had a musical guest on, and he said there was somebody that was local, introduced him as Raleigh Ritchie, and he gives this just huge performance.
It was great.
Play a piece of it.
It's really low, but yeah. So here's the thing, I think, though. The important thing is to ask Christiana and Nutty, which cast member of Game of Thrones do they think that is?
I don't know. I couldn't really.
I can't tell from singing.
I was too quiet. Yeah, it would be pretty hard to tell.
It would be really hard to tell anyways.
So the stage name is Raleigh Ritchie. The actor's name is Jacob Anderson, who plays Grey Worm.
Oh, cool.
And
it was funny.
Go ahead.
It's funny on the show, too, because there was some other British actors that were on the panel being interviewed by Graham Norton. And so they were saying, oh, and so, some people may recognize you. Oh, yeah, I was in such and such, naming these UK shows that we've never heard of.
Yeah.
And then Graham's like, and you were on Game of Thrones. Oh, yeah.
And honestly, I didn't pick him out as Grey Worm until he did that, because it was like he looks familiar, but we see so much music stuff, and it was like, oh my god, it's Grey Worm. How did we not see that face immediately and know? It was really good, though.
Recognize Obama?
It was a really good performance, though. It was neat to see that side of him.
So that's we've got a couple of musicians in the show. We've got Hodor's a DJ, and Jerome Flynn. Is it Jerome Flynn that plays Ron?
Yeah.
Yeah. He's a singer from the 80s, from a pop band, and now Grey Worm. And I'm sure there's more that we just don't know about.
To start a Game of Thrones band.
Yes.
Right. I'm sure they've already got something going.
So in the previews of coming up next week, they showed Bran again, although you don't know if it's coming this season or coming next week.
It said next week. I paid attention.
Yeah,
it said
I don't
next
trust
week.
him.
I know, I don't
I
either.
don't trust him. I thought for sure we'd see him this episode.
He looked blind too, didn't he?
I think it's puberty stretching his face out, like how they the facial
eyes.
It's just the sunlight. He's been under a tree for a long time.
You're right, Nutty. I think what's going on there is that he's getting a vision, right? He's doing the whole. What now? Did Jojen, when he had his visions, did his eyes go like that? I don't remember.
No, they didn't, but
He had a seizure, didn't he? Wasn't it like an epileptic seizure?
Yeah, he would have a seizure, but his eyes wouldn't tweak.
Right. Yeah, I think that's
more like a wargie.
Yeah, and Bran's eyes would go flip up in his head.
Right.
It would get cloudy, but I think that any visions he gets with the tree will be completely different.
Well, right, yeah, he's kind of like in this souped-up place of power, being taught by the three-eyed raven, right? So
Space and time, tree connection.
yeah, I will teach you to roll your eyes even further back.
Zing. Or phrasing.
So I'm excited. This was a good starter episode, and I can't wait to go in depth on Wednesday.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yep.
And as a reminder
Sounds
to
good.
viewers and listeners, reach out to us in the social medias ways that you can, and we'll start collecting folks that are giving us feedback and such, and loading up their, I don't know, we're going to use a helm or something to put the names in to draw a winner from.
Right.
But what we'll do is the prize, I figure, instead of just getting a $50 Amazon gift certificate, it could be iTunes or Amazon, because some people don't care as much about Amazon as iTunes. It'll just be at the discretion of whoever wins.
Yep.
Right on.
Send us comments, watch, and participate in the Q&A, leave us an iTunes review, comment on the blog, things like that. Right?
We love it.
Excellent.
It makes
And
Yes.
all of
so much
those
more
earn
fun.
you an entry.
That earns you an entry, and it makes it way more fun for us.
Beautiful. All right, so that's it for our preview, or no, not our preview, our reaction. It's shaping up to be a great episode, or great season, like always.
I know.
And we will talk to everybody on Wednesday night at 8 o'clock.
8 Eastern.
Wednesday, 8 o'clock Eastern. We'll be on time this time. We'll do great tonight.
And we'll talk about the
All right.
horde that we've been waiting so long for, but not until
Final
Wednesday.
horde payoff.
It only took 5
we really
seasons.
talked about that, but that'll be fun.
Yes.
All right. We will talk to everybody next time.
If you have feedback for the Beyond the Wall podcast, you can email us at btw@specficmedia.com.
I would continue it if I remembered the rest of it.
Specficmedia.com.
I just didn't even know where it was in the spiel.
No unported
Did it
license.
drop
There you
off?
go.
Yeah, it
Feel free to
did.
share and remix. Just give us credit and don't charge money for it.
Professional.
Yeah, Viv was just talking about Creative Commons 3.0 license, all that legit, don't do stuff. Okay, we're good.
Oops.